Yo, what's going on, Full Heel Podcast? Back at you with another episode. And today I got a very special guest all the way from Canada. I got my buddy Ryan. What's going on, Ryan? Oh, shit.
And Connor.
Whoa. Sorry, I was loading something up on my phone. I didn't see him. What's going on,
Yes.
Connor?
Hey, can you say hi, buddy? You gonna be shy?
Did he watch WrestleMania with you?
Oh yeah.
Did he
Okay,
like?
guys, gotta go. We'll play a little bit, okay? Okay. They at the door knocking, like at the perfect time. Like all night he leaves me alone. You hit record and say at the door, Daddy, Daddy.
That's awesome. Full Heel Podcast introduction to Connor.
Yeah, now he's been to the both of them, or the full heel end with Average Joe's there before my last time there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have you on here today because it's the road to WrestleMania. We're coming upon WrestleMania. You wanted to talk about a WrestleMania. You've been hitting me up for a while now. I just been lazy. I should have.
Yeah.
I want to do more of these. I just should. Like I said, I'm lazy. I don't do them. So I'm glad you got on my ass about doing it because now we're here.
Well,
WrestleMania 13.
yeah, and I had a blast. Was it last year or so, 2 years ago there when we did the Survivor Series card, and I like the format that you do, just going back whatever the pay per view that month is and checking them out and that. So I thought that's WrestleMania. I know you're a WCW guy. I'm a WWFE guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I have like a lot of those old WrestleManias. I wasn't sure like how familiar were, and I thought maybe check them out and we can rap about it. And yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, dude. I needed to make one of these episodes. Like I said, we're coming up on the road to WrestleMania. So what better way than to talk about it? And like you said, you were saying this is one of your favorite WrestleManias, not only because, Hitman and Stone Cold, but
This is one of like the first ones I saw. Like I saw like when I was like really little, like the old school like 80s and early 90s. But when I really got into wrestling was right around WrestleMania 12, 13, and actually I had like a VHS copy of WrestleMania 11. It was like bootlegged, crappy quality, but I watched the crap out of that tape. And then when I saw 13, it was just hooked. That was what really drove me into wrestling,
mm-hmm.
and I've loved this card ever since. And like we were saying before, watching the more recent ones, I kind of forgot a little bit about this card, and so revisiting it, just so many like little hidden gems. And you saw the storylines that were kind of like developing that were going to lead towards the beginning of the Attitude Era that was going to come up at the end of this year and that kind of stuff. So it was really kind of cool for me, like a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, definitely. I was messaging you some of the guys that I was watching. You're like, it might not be the best of WrestleManias. You could say that, but nostalgic wise, it brings back a lot of good memories with.
Yeah, a lot of like classic moments, cool champions, like we'll talk about like the champions that got crowned on that, and just like the guys that were in there this time. Like it was short too. Like there was 7-8 matches. Like it wasn't like a 5-hour 17 match thing we get now. Like it was straight to the point and just good action.
Yeah, and we got to see the birth of a lot of guys' young careers. Well, maybe not birth, but definitely young careers for these guys. A young Rocky Maivia, young Triple H.
Yeah.
Well, Goldust wasn't that young, but he was there.
He was really coming into his own away from like his dad's name too, which the Goldust thing really helped his career.
Mm-hmm. I wish they would have done something. I don't know, in WCW. I like his regular, gimmick.
When he was just Dustin Reynolds, that was he got to show himself off, but like it's just that it's like David Flair, right? Living in the name of a legend.
Yeah.
Like,
mm-hmm.
what do you can do everything you want, but you're never going to be that guy. So I think WWF really utilized him in the right way when they brought him in.
He's definitely been that guy, that mid-Carter guy, that Intercontinental Champion. Maybe form a tag team, give him a championship there.
Yeah.
I don't think they were ever going to push him out of there. I've always thought the WWE has had something against the Rhodes family, to be honest. I thought Dusty being part of I think Vince's dad's company and then moving over to doing his own stuff with NWA and WCW.
Yeah.
I think there was a grown hate towards him because when he came in with the American Dream character, They kind of try to give him a shitty character, put him in polka dots,
Yeah.
gave him that manager that he kind of
Sapphire.
Sapphire. He went along with, and he made it his own, and he definitely worked with it. And I don't know who else would have been able to do that. And I think the Rhodes family has that natural knack of being able to adapt to the situation, and they have a not natural born ability, but they can wrestle, and they can adapt to the situation that they're thrown into.
I think Dusty also, like, when he went to WWF, he was, I think, like, whatever, you're gonna pay me to wear polka dots. The fans want to see me. You're gonna pay me tons of money. I'll wear what you want. Like, I'm still getting that paycheck at the end of the day, and then I'll just go back to WCW and just get the world title back.
Yeah, but he was so undeniable. He jumped from company to company to company, and he was always such a pivotal role in each one of them.
And work with anybody too.
Yeah. Shout outs to the YouTube people watching, camera commenting. Have you been have you been watching wrestling? Have you been keeping up with it whatsoever at all?
I follow it as best I can. Don't watch it as much as I used to, but I'm familiar with, like, some of the storylines that are happening. Obviously, like, I mean, Becky Lynch, I don't think anyone wouldn't know what's going on with her. Like, she's blown up, like, that angle, but
definitely
I'm familiar with
about that when we get to that match on here, to the comparisons. We can talk about that. But I guess we could just start off at the top of the card. I guess I didn't see the dark match. We can't see the dark match. It's not available.
Yeah, the Billy Gunn and Flash Funk.
Yeah. But we had I don't know how many tag teams it was, but it was the Headbangers, Doug Furnace and Phil LaFone, the Goodwins, Henry O. Goodwin and Phineas I. Goodwin, with Hillbilly Jim on the outside, and then the new Blackjacks, Bradshaw, and was it Blackshaw Wyndham? Barry Windham, right?
Yeah. This is when he went. Yeah, this is where where I was introduced to him. I had no idea how long he'd been in the business at this point. So I was like,
if Jeff listens to this, he'll know what I'm talking about. But Jeff hates me because he doesn't hate me, but it's funny because I have a set of 4 of the Horsemen, and
nice.
Wyndham is one of them. It's Ric Flair, Arn, Wyndham, and Tully Blanchard, and he's like,
they don't have they didn't have Ole in there?
No, they don't. And he's like, Ole belongs in there. He's like, Ole's the one that belongs in there. But the thing is, what WWE did is they have a figure for each one of the champions in the figure sets. So they had Ric Flair's heavyweight, Arn and Tully as tag team champions, and they have USA champion for Barry.
Okay. So
the thing is, they didn't put the belts on them. That would have been helpful, and that would have been
awesome.
More of an indicator that that's what they were going for. But I think that's what they were going for, the more successful version of the 4 Horsemen.
Right.
Yeah, but Jeff always tells me that he's like, Ole should be there, not Barry. And I'm like, hey, dude, I didn't make it. I just
you got to get your own your own Ole and open up the package and slip him in there, and
then edit the package and put.
It's a Rafa exclusive.
Yeah, you probably do that and sell it for a good penny.
Yeah,
if you do it right, probably someone will buy it. There's people that buy. Now that I've dwelled into the collecting and customizing and stuff like that, you see some weird shit and people buy it. They'll buy that stuff. But there's some cool stuff though out there. But
you want to talk weird toys? As anyone can go back and look at the line of toys that WWF was putting out around this time, with just type in WWF Stomp and just take a look at some of those action figures.
The Stomp ones. Were they the super jacked ones that had huge limbs and
they were kind of more jacked on the muscle, more they showed more definition, but they were they had one of them was army style, so they would have armor that you could take off so that they could fight in armor or without, and then they did one with farmer, Ahmed Johnson came with a pitchfork and a straw hat. It was just some bad things that they were putting out there, and people bought it.
Yeah, so this match that we're talking about was a #1 contendership matchup for the WWF Tag Team Championship. So how many tag teams? 1, 2, 3.
four corner elimination
Four. Yeah.
for this
Okay.
guy.
Yeah. Four.
Yeah.
Which incorporated one of my favorite tag teams from that era, and I don't know. Maybe it's because it's dudes wearing skirts,
Yeah,
but
that
the headbangers. I don't know why. As a kid, I was a real big fan of Mosh and Thrasher.
well, especially this time, like in another like 6 months when the Attitude Era was really coming in, they really fit the profile.
Hmm.
But at this time here, WF was still kind of gimmicky. Like you had like the Sultans coming up next. Like though they're still kind of using like America versus the Middle East
Yeah, yeah.
lines.
You
So
had
like so when you saw like the headbangers come out, it's like whoa, what? Like this was really different for this era. And the kind of reminded me of like almost like the next incarnation of the Rockers, like the high flying. They stand out compared to the other teams. They're energetic. They're fast paced. They're fun to watch.
they're
Like
loud.
I don't think like the Headbangers got as much respect as they should have had. Like they broke them up way too early. They could have done a lot more with them going into the as this like storylines progressed. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
was
forgot who. I think Mosh was given a horrible gimmick of like,
he was almost like Leave It to Beaver at one
yeah,
point.
and he was sleeping with his mom, which is with his manager, and that was
Yeah,
really weird.
and then they
Oh, you
tried
know
to.
what it was? It was Beaver Cleavage.
That's it, Beaver Cleavage.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was Beaver Cleavage, and
I knew it was something. Yeah,
and
that's funny.
he would hug his mom's tits, and he would wear like a spinny hat and lick a lollipop. It was so bad.
It was so bad. Yeah,
Uh,
especially coming off the high of the Headbangers that he was
yeah,
on.
it was so different. The headbangers with the fucking the triangles under the eyes, the skirts. Real men wear skirts.
Yeah, the nose ring
Yeah,
with the attached to the earring, and like wearing like the band shirts, like Thrasher in this pay per view, he comes out with White Snake, and Mosh comes out with like Metallica, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they like right from the concert right to the ring, kind of like that was
Hmm.
supposed to be their whole gimmick, which yeah, it worked. It was fun, like, and you see them like how they work with the Godwins and the Blackjacks who are bruisers, and how they worked with Philip and LaFon. Like they were like more technique, and they were able to work with all those guys, and they really brought everyone up a level. I found in this match.
Yeah, yeah, and the Godwins are a good big team to work with.
Yeah,
The new Blackjacks too. I like Bradshaw. Bradshaw, well, he's always been a good worker, not a super high flyer, always the big bruiser guy. But I don't remember Doug Furness and Phil LaFon. I don't remember them as a tag
they
team.
in they may have been there for like a year, 2 years max, I'd say, but they kind of like popped in around this time. They kind of, I don't know if they were really face, but they turned heel and they kind of aligned themselves with the Heart Foundation.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and then they were quickly gone. Like they were just in and out.
Well, that's kind of what they were in this match. They were really nothing. They were just there. For,
They were there just there to get disqualified with the Blackjacks,
yeah.
which is funny. Like if you when you watch the match and Bradshaw grabs the referee and throws him to the ground, and then Furnace and LaFon get DQ'd also. It's like, what the heck? Why is the referee throwing everyone out? Like, they did
Yeah.
nothing. They're getting disqualified. It's like,
Hey, you two, get out of here. You guys aren't winning. Just leave. All right. You guys know.
yeah, no one likes you guys. Just
Yeah. Let's get out of
get
here.
the shower.
I thought it was a good match. Just that because the headbangers won. So
Yeah. Well, and then also like, they got to do like a little bit of like the aerial stuff, like to like hitting like the duo jumps off the top rope to the
mhm.
outside.
Yeah, they were doing a lot of that good stuff.
Yeah, and then yeah, like it was just fun to see them like see the high flying again because and like
They're not small guys.
no, they're not. Because yeah, when you see the high flyers, they tend to be more like a cruiserweight or a bit lighter. And now here, you guys got like 6'2", 250, and they're like flying out there.
Hmm. And it was fun to see an old, not even old. I mean, a young Bradshaw right before the APA, and then they joined the
Yeah,
Ministry, and then he gets his giant boom of a career as the I don't know
that was
Republican.
crazy.
I don't
Yeah,
know what it was.
I don't even know what like. Yeah, I remember like I took like a year off of watching wrestling, and I knew him from APA, and I turned it back on one day. I'm like, he's the world champion. He's from New York City. All of a sudden, I'm like, what's going on? And like, he got a Texas accent from New York. He's
Yeah, yeah. And he had his limousine with the horns on it. Yeah.
uh, they always gave like no matter what, he always had like some form of a cowboy to his gimmick. Like always, no matter what they did, they always made sure that people knew he was a Texan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that was a good 10-minute match. Nice lengthy match. This was around the era when they had good tag teams.
Oh,
Right now, I think they're building up the tag team divisions, and I don't know if what the McMahons said is coming true because they said it right before WrestleMania, and it always tends up to ramp up for WrestleMania, and it's definitely ramped up. Not so much in the tag team scene, I guess, but the storylines have become more interesting. But they've definitely been working. Oh, what am I talking about? NXT brought up Heavy Machinery. They've definitely given them a push. But I hear that that's because they're very humble guys, good workers, and they stay after to help the ring crew break down the ring and
oh no way.
put everything away. Yeah. So
That's
I hear
pretty
that
cool.
the brass holds them in high regard because they're not like divas and shit like that. And
Right,
they're for a tag team, they're good and they're popular. They're over, so they just brought them up from NXT. But I guess they have been working a little bit on the tag teams. But like I said, I don't know if it's because it's a ramp up to WrestleMania, but the storylines have been getting good. And
right, yeah, yeah.
this,
That's the one thing that always disappointed me was when they destroyed that division.
yeah, they need to work on the tag team division, get it strong.
Yeah,
They're working on the women's tag team division. They just started that up.
yeah. I like that that little. I don't know if it was it was a tournament or but it finished in the elimination chamber. I know I haven't seen the match, but like I know it had like all the results and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
it was kind of like a
It was
tournament. They had matches to qualify into the tournament, and then the tournament match for the
oh
titles.
okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, and that was I mean I think it's kind of cool because with the women's division like even though like you have like a lot of solo stars, they do have a lot of women it seems in their on their roster who are friends if you would like they go to the ring together, they're always seen together and that kind of stuff. So it kind of works so you can make them a tag team
hmm
or split them apart and keep them singles. So
yeah, and we can get into it, but like they've kind of shot them. In my opinion, I like Ronda, but they've kind of shot themselves in the foot how the way they've booked her. So, uh, so like unbeatable. But we could get into that when we start talking about Becky and the comparisons to
for
some
sure,
some
yeah.
people on this card. The match after this tag match was a very young Rocky Maivia
With
champion.
the hair flowing in the wind when he runs
Yeah,
to the ring.
yeah, the little curly poof up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, versus the Sultan with Bob Backlund and the Iron Sheik as his managers. The Sultan, for those people that don't know, was Rikishi before he did anything else. Well,
Yeah,
I think in WCW he was something else, but in WWF,
this is his big, yeah, this
yeah.
is his, I guess, breakout role, if you, for lack of a better one, before, yeah, Rikishi
hmm
takes him to or the stratosphere kind of thing. But man, like all in the family, babe, for the Rock here, like,
Dude, I love this Rock because I remember this Rock. I bought a figure set where he came with these white boots. I think it was even the King of the Ring tournament that they did. Um, or it was the European tournament that they did that came with all the like it came with mini figures like they were this big, but
okay,
it came with a steel cage like a buildable steel cage, and
oh, nice,
I'm Mexican, so at that time I couldn't afford a lot, so that was cool. That was
yeah,
badass.
yeah,
Like it wasn't the full size ring or anything, but it was like the small little figures that I could fucking play with in a
that's
ring,
yeah,
in a cage, and like little items on the side. It was just badass. The Rock was
that's
one of the guys, and it came with a bunch of other guys. Whoever was in the European tournament, I would guess.
right.
I can't really remember, but The Rock is really one of the guys that stood out with his white boots and his I guess black or navy blue trunks with the Hawaiian
Oh,
floral pattern right over or whatever pattern
yeah,
that is.
he got like he wouldn't like you look at his career like coming out with like yeah like those white boots and the turquoise and that puffy hair
Mm-hmm.
and like all these like the patterns on his trunks were always changing like there was no way you would ever tell me back in 97, 98 that this guy's gonna be making $40 million a year in Hollywood
Oh no, dude! You see his
and he's gonna be
fucking
like
you see the selling of his moves as a babyface. It was pretty bad.
yeah
Like I like The
yeah
Rock and he can execute moves and he was good and everything, but just the I guess like the mini celebrations after he would hit a move were like so corny that's what was not allowing people to get over. And that
Yeah,
I always reference back to it because that's what always everyone says, and I saw it as a kid, but going back and watching it now, you can definitely see it, and you can definitely pick up on the corniness and be like, I can't definitely get 100% on with this guy. And
yeah,
it wasn't until he made the switch to The Rock that you could really jump onto him because it was more of an arrogance after he was beating your ass, which you're like, yeah, I could jump on shit with that.
yeah. Like, well, and it's funny too, because like they were even like when the fans back then were going like, die Rocky, die, and stuff like that, like killing him. So they quickly rebranded him as the Rock, Rocky Maivia, trying to give him like a cool nickname. Like they were trying almost like kind of like with Roman Reigns, like Vince was trying everything in his power to get him over, and the fans weren't having it, and it literally took almost making the Rock like a Stone Cold Part B in
Mm-hmm.
the late '90s to finally get him over and show his potential, like where the fans would actually accept him.
Yeah, definitely. This was I like the match. Vintage Rock, but if you want to see The Rock's full arsenal, I would definitely come check out this match. You see a lot of moves that he took out of his game later on, and that's what kind of seems to be the tendency with all of these guys.
Yeah,
They drop a lot of their, well, maybe because they get older and their joints get all more fucked up and they just can't do them. But you see like a tornado DDT by The Rock. You see a lot more drop kicks by The Rock, a lot more high flying stuff by The Rock, which later on in
yeah.
his career he dropped maybe due to size or joint issues because like fuck that, I'm not doing that anymore.
Well, and he
Or
had like those years of like football abuse too on his body too that was
mhm.
gonna be catching up to him. So
Or even due to character, maybe even character development. You know, sometimes the heels don't do what the faces will do,
yeah,
and they won't give the crowd what the crowd wants.
yeah.
But you could definitely see The Rock's arsenal here on display. And
And even like the Sultan, you could see like knowing that he becomes Rikishi and knowing like
thank you,
people are more familiar with Rikishi, and you could see like
thank you.
you go
I
back and
got so
watch.
hung up on The Rock, but the Sultan I think is a way better example of this.
Yeah, like because you can see like the baby steps of his move set,
Hmm.
and then like you look at it in this match, then you look at it say like WrestleMania like 2000 or something like that, and you compare him there, and you can just see like he really fine tuned everything in his arsenal,
Yeah.
uh, and like he never was concerned to like to lose weight. Like he was like, this is me.
Hmm.
I can become a high flyer doing this, like doing flips from standing.
Yeah.
Like, get
And
out of here.
and you can see a lot of Rikishi in this, but you also see him drop a lot of the heel shit that he was doing here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like exactly like The Rock. The Rock dropped a lot of the face shit he did when he developed more into the Rock gimmick, and then that kind of just carried him into his tweener phase, and then he was just superstar after
Yeah.
that. But yeah, the Sultan definitely better. I'm glad you brought it up. A better example of the wrestling move display and more of a full arsenal than when they later moved into their more popular gimmicks where they didn't have to do as much because they were already over.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe they busted out every so often. John Cena recently was, he was accused of the five moves of death. Originally, I think it was
Oh
Nash.
yeah.
I think originally it was Nash, but Cena kind of started adding more moves into his arsenals after receiving that criticism, and then people couldn't really talk shit anymore. He was doing the stunner off the ropes. He was just adding a lot more different shit that people were like, oh, we didn't expect Cena to do that.
Yeah. Like, and it's cool to see people like I don't know if it's like social media people like are able to reach out to these guys more. Like maybe these guys can see criticisms from the fans, not just from like writers and other guys like that. But like you look at Hogan, who had 30-odd-year career and never changed a single thing and stayed the same, and people, man, they loved it, but eventually just kind of got tiresome and bored, and you have to repackage the person, and that like I mean Hollywood Hogan was amazing. It was still Hulk Hogan's move set,
Hmm.
just with a different character, if you would.
Yeah.
Whereas with John Cena, he's able to stay himself and just kind of like add things and like tweak this and manipulate that, and even like with MMA coming big too, like you see like Lesnar now using a lot more MMA moves and Ronda Rousey,
Yep.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So you're definitely, but you're seeing like these guys uh, like when Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock went to WWF, and you saw these guys doing like awesome moves, and then when they went back to MMA, it was just back to regular wrestling, and it kind of got a little, it got it stale here and there. But yeah, it's you're seeing a lot of, like you said, a lot of these guys they change as they go, and it's refreshing. Like when you, for me especially, like when I bounce away for a year or two, and then I come back and I see the same guys are there, but they're they they're more entertaining. They're different. I'm not seeing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So The Rock defends his Intercontinental Championship. I'm gonna move on real quick. Before I get on to the next match, Camera 001, one of my buddies, shout outs to the people watching on YouTube, dropped us a comment. Does this current era have a name since, Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era? I don't know too much what the eras would be called after that. I know this era, I think it's called the Indie Era. Just because
Uh,
they're acquiring so much indie stars coming into NXT, and that's what's fueling them, and that's what's fueling the company. So I would assume that it's the indie era. I don't know if we would know what the era is called till it's over, right? I don't know if that's
yeah, like I don't really remember calling it the Attitude Era much before it was said and done, and then they
yeah.
started referring to it as that. Yeah, I think probably the where we're in right now, I'd say maybe like another 3 years. They'll probably have as the guard changes a bit with the roster. They'll
Well,
probably come back and say, "Well, remember back when we had these guys during this era," and then
you know what it might be? I think me calling it the indie era and people saying it's the indie era. I think we're moving into and transitioning into something else because the indie stars have been fueling this company, and the McMahons did come out recently and say they were going to change shit up and listen more to the fans, and maybe it's a transition into something else. Storylines have been ramping up better. Like I said, it might be due to WrestleMania coming up, or it could be maybe it's a new era. Maybe the McMahons are telling the truth and they're gonna strive for better content. Here's something: SmackDown's moving to FS1. FS1 wants more wrestling-based content, so it might be the sports era that we're in, that we're embarking into. They're incorporating more MMA, and they might just be incorporating more wrestling, more with what they do, and cut out some of the promo, which I would be in favor of, especially on Raw, which is 3 hours. Cut
yeah,
some of
that's
that
the other thing
talking
too.
out.
I got it. Yeah, that 3 hours is like I've never been a fan of the 3 hours, even like back down to the Nitro days when I was in like my heyday of watching it.
Hmm.
3 hours just gets way too long. Like by that third hour, like you start falling out of it, and then the main event happens, and you almost lose interest in it. And you can they try to bring it back, but I can bet that a lot of people dip out in that second hour just so they can not be bored for that third hour.
Cameron asked another question. The Titantron where the wrestlers, I guess, since we were talking about action figures, the Titantron where the wrestlers had the metal thing on their feet, and I guess
Oh yeah,
you would
yeah,
push them on
yeah.
there, and they would give specific things. So I remember the WCW version where you had the ring and it had this smushy center of the ring, and you would push it down, and if you held it, it would count, and if you pushed it and raised it up real quick, it would make a noise. I don't remember having that WWF one where you connected it.
Yeah, it
I
was
did have
pretty cool.
WWF figures though.
Yeah, when they'd come out, yeah, you put them on there and they have like their like little catchphrases.
Hmm.
And it was like, I remember looking back and liking that one because it didn't have anything that would get damaged. You know, like a kid, you're like, if you have something there, like you break a little like chip or something, and then it's pointless to use. But with those ones, there it was like you couldn't break. They actually had to take the piece off physically. So
I might get a ring this Friday, so I was at the retro shop and someone turned in like their thing with the Titantron. The thing is, I didn't have that much money, and I went for a little statue of Yoda fighting Sidious.
nice.
So hopefully, I have enough money this weekend. I'll probably just shoot over there Friday. I have Friday off. I'm taking my parents to the bus stop. They're leaving to Mexico for like 3 weeks, leaving me in charge. So I might just shoot over there after that because I'll be in that direction anyway. and I might see if that ring is there because it was only like $20. I want the ring as a display. You've seen my Marvel display.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'm working on my Black Panther display. It's already come along pretty well. I just need to add more figures to that. I got some comics on there, a couple of graphic novels, but I started off collecting figures, the ones behind me, the ones on the wrestling figures. I haven't opened them. I haven't opened any of them, and I don't plan on opening them. But I plan on buying more of them and opening those. But I think I should start it off with. It's a used ring, but it looked nice anyway. They had
Yeah.
two to choose from, and an apron that I could choose switch out like SmackDown, WrestleMania.
Well, that's cool.
I think I might shoot over there on Friday and do it and just fucking get it. But I want to start my wrestling display, and I'll open some of them, but some of them I can't open, man. Some of them are too awesome. I just want to keep in box, and
Right.
they will stay in box. Like the turtle set I got, they'll stay in box.
Oh, well, unless I drop my kids off, because then they'll just rip open everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you had I've seen your toys.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they get opened.
Before I forgot the one thing you didn't mention though, the intro to that Rockin' Sultan with the new Hall of Famer, the Honky Tonk Man, they're making his with the introduction.
Oh, dude.
I remember watching this and like the first time watching when I was a kid and being like, oh shit, the Honky Tonk Man's back. I think he was just he was like legit in a fight and then he sits up for commentary. I was so bad.
Great commentary, dude. Great commentary.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good.
Yeah, he's so good on the mic.
When they can bring him back like for these like one-off kind of things that they used to do before everything went south with him and Vince, he was so good just to pop out and just get just. I think that was their way of trying to get The Rock over too at the time, like trying to like really make the heel push the baby and just nothing.
We didn't even touch on it. So The Rock wins, but the Sultan and Iron Sheik and Bob Backlund start beating the shit out of The Rock, and The Rock's dad comes out.
Yeah, Rocky Johnson.
Yeah, Rocky Johnson comes out, and he tries to defend The Rock, but Sultan beats the shit out of Rocky Johnson.
I love rips his shirt off, gets him in the camel clutch.
Yeah, he beats the crap out of him, and I think The Rock somehow got the upper hand and got them out of there.
Yeah, he makes the save.
Yeah, and they ripped the shirt off of a still jacked Rocky Johnson. But
and he's like 2 years old. He's more jacked than I will ever be.
Yeah. Dude was jacked, but it was great seeing The Rock's dad out there.
Yeah, that was a cool moment.
Yeah, trying to put over the young Maivia out there. No more comments. All right. So next match was Hunter Hearst Helmsley before Triple H. This is how he got his name. For people that don't know, people that are listening to the podcast, or people that just don't know and are new to wrestling. Triple H was Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the aristocrat.
Yeah, the blue blood from
the blue blood.
Yeah. Not the terrorizing that he was in WCW.
Yes, terrorizing. They had some horrible gimmicks over there.
Oh, man.
Nash is a wizard, the Wizard of Oz or something, or Oz.
Right.
I think it was just Oz.
Yeah.
I think they would have gotten sued if they used Wizard of Oz, but
he was just Oz. And you look back at like DDP and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and Triple H and all those guys. Their first gimmicks in WCW back in the early 90s were just oof.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Funny.
The Sultan is a great gimmick compared to what a lot of these guys got. But then he got Rikishi, which he got over with, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're having to stink face people all the time. Here, smell my ass.
Yeah. Poor Trish.
Yeah, it's poor everybody, man. No one deserves that. How is that like how are you proud of that? Like, oh yeah, I'm the guy that fucking
someone else was doing that too. I don't know if it's now or if it was like maybe briefly in the early 2000s. I remember someone once it was a female wrestler brought it back and it was just like it died out really fast. Like
I know the female wrestlers bring the Bronco Buster, and I'm like, well, I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
And just ladies, be careful out there because X-Pac ripped his asshole open with that. So it's the word of it.
Yeah. Literally with himself a new asshole.
Yeah. No, he did. So watch out with the Bronco Buster. It'll rip your new asshole.
Oof.
Ay caramba. Yeah, but the Blue Blood with China, R.I.P. China, going into the Hall of Fame this year with DX. I know a lot of people are mad about this because they want China to go in individually. I don't think the WWE is ever going to do that. I do.
I
I think
I
she
feel that
deserves
they
it.
will. I
Do you?
think that because there's been so many guys that Vince has hated over the years that he came around to, and I think that the social media push is the reason why they got DX in. I think that's the opening to get China in individually.
Mm-hmm. I could
Just
see it maybe in the future.
I think that eventually I feel like they have to say like, you know what, she can't say anything bad in her speech. I mean,
Yeah.
not to be crude or anything, but like she's not gonna be able to go out there and like badmouth the company
She
more.
took
Like,
some dick on camera. Big deal.
eh.
Like people don't have sex. That's how she was made.
And they still have Paige out there. I mean, come on, Paige destroyed
Yeah.
the women's championship, man.
Hey, what Paige did was art. Okay, Ryan.
Yeah.
That was art.
Oh man.
Man, that girl could take a dick. That
Good
girl
old
could fuck.
Paige.
Yeah.
And now I wonder if they included that in the DVD extras when her fighting with my family comes out there.
I'd buy it. I'd go see the movie.
Yeah.
I'd take my nephews and. God damn it. But yeah. So she's getting into the Hall of Fame with DX. So yeah, I could see how it's a soft entry for her to individually get thrown in there. It's just
Yeah.
they've held this grudge forever, and that whole Triple H marrying,
Oh, with the Stephanie and all that.
yeah, all that whole drama. For people that don't know, Triple H was going out with China, and then he started going out with Steph, I guess, at the same time as he was going out with China, or that's what broke them up. And Hunter eventually married Steph. And look at him now. I think he made the right decision.
I mean, like it benefited both of them because China ended up getting split from DX and ended up walking away with the Intercontinental title at one point. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, she had a pretty solid career. I mean, I'm sorry if they're putting Tori Wilson in the Hall of Fame, they gotta put China in there at some point. They just set up a woman's wing and just they put everyone in that you want. Then you can't say like because when they start putting in like this the divas who were basically just bra and panty matches and saying, yeah, they're a Hall of Famer,
Mm-hmm.
then you're really starting to like take away from it.
I don't know. Being 12, 13, 14, I think she's a
Yeah.
Hall of Famer. You know, she's a Hall of Famer in my book.
Yeah. At the time, she's a Hall of Famer, but looking back at it, I mean, come on, they
Looking
can't get
back at it, I was
put
like,
Owen Hart and the British Bulldog into the Hall of Fame, and they're putting
so.
Tori Wilson.
Yeah,
Get out of
yeah,
here.
yeah. So when I heard Tori Wilson was in, people are like, she hasn't even won any titles, and I'm like, bullshit. And then I start going through her thing, and I'm like, oh my god, they didn't even give her the women's title once.
And that's when they were giving it to everybody.
Yeah, I think
Harvey
like
Wippleman had the
Moolah
title.
and May would have won it like for like at their age at this time won it. They didn't even give it to Tori. But yeah, I could see why. You know, she wasn't really a wrestler. She was a good-looking chick from.
I still understand like the reasoning behind it. Like, yeah, I get she had a good career, long career, whatever. But it's like,
I think she was from WCW.
yeah, she was with Kidman
Okay, yeah, yep. There we go.
and all them.
Stacy was with ECW. Where was she with these?
No, Stacy was WCW too.
Okay.
She used to come with the clipboard and like the
You
shorts.
know what? The real slutty ones were with ECW. The ones that would show their tits.
Who was it? Francine,
I forget their names, but I remember they show their tits or something like that.
Beulah McGilligutty.
What a horrible name.
I got some. Jeff has me beat, but I got some ECW in there.
But yeah, so Hunter with China takes on Goldust with Marlena. So Marlena, for those people who don't know, is Terry Reynolds. Later on becomes Terry Reynolds. That's what I knew her as. I forgot she was Marlena. I never really knew her. But I guess she was just Marlena as Goldust, his manager.
Ballet kind of manager, yeah.
Yeah. She comes out with like a cigar, acting like a badass. She's hot as she's hot, but
She,
she's definitely fake. You get that, but she's like that fake hot, like
yeah, you can tell there's a lot of work done to make her
yeah,
look the way she does when she comes in on camera.
yeah. But I'd smash. She's pretty fucked up now, though. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's
I was
been
gonna
run through by a lot of wrestlers.
I get her and Sunny mixed up a lot, but like I know
Oh,
Sunny's had she's had a bit of a rough one.
yeah, I wouldn't blame you because I think they've had the same path of sorts.
Pretty much, yeah.
And by that I mean they've taken a lot of wrestler dick.
Yeah, and they basically look
A lot
identical.
of a lot of the same one. Hey, man, does taking the same dick make them look make people
You
look
know,
the same?
you can see like Shawn Michaels, man. Oh man, I was with Sunny last night. Like, no, I was. Like, what? Like, just getting them all. Oh yeah.
But
But
Marlena, yeah, smash.
this match was a fun one. This is a one like a rivalry that was really hidden around this time because they shortly after got like Triple H and Hunter going at it and or sorry, The Rock and Hunter rather sorry starting up their Intercontinental feud and Stone Cold was getting in the mix. So this is one that really no one remembers, but China and Marlena like really elevated this rivalry because China was like beating up Goldust half the time. Like she was like no one had saw anything like this before for a manager to come out and be like tougher than the wrestler.
Yeah.
And they utilized her well in a lot of the matches to be the one as opposed to interfering in the match itself. It's get the wrestler distracted by having her beat up that person's manager, and Marlena was like the perfect person for her to go up against because it's like yeah, like you were saying, like the girl walking around like the gown and the cigar and the high heels, and you got China walking around just looking like she's gonna rip someone's head off.
Yeah, just scowling with their arms crossed all day.
Yeah, just looking angry at all times.
Yeah. China got some surgery later on, didn't she? I think she got her face shaved down.
Yeah,
She had a jaw on her, dude. That girl could take a
uh,
punch.
yeah. Like I remember,
Elbow.
I remember like looking back at some like when the matches when she first kind of started showing up, and you look at her back when she was like really in her heyday, as like even as a solo competitor, how different she is.
Only woman ever to have the Intercontinental Championship, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think might be the only woman to have a men's title. I'm not. Uh,
Some
there could be someone in that had a tag team.
WCW won the. I think someone in
Bagwell.
WCW won the Cruiserweight Championship. Maybe.
Oh, Medusa did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think she did.
I remember Judy Bagwell and Rick Steiner were the tag champs for a while there.
Oh my God, the Judy Bagwell on a pole match. Do you remember that?
Oh, I've erased a lot of those ones from my memory, but
They had Judy
they,
Bagwell on a pole, and that was the match.
oh,
Say no more. Look it up.
good luck. Good old Vince Russo.
Yeah, good old Vince Russo. Damn it! I can't find my little piece of paper. There it is. To dump my weed on, so I could
Oh,
pack another bowl. I mean my tobacco. The wacky tobacco.
yeah.
But this is a awesome match. Awesome match. Young Hunter Hearst, Hemsley, and Goldust. So, like I said, man, that was a punishment wrestling in that fucking suit. Do you think it was like?
Yeah, I definitely think that was their way of trying to like keep the roads down. Like, hey, yeah, we signed you, whatever, but you have to play by our rules. And Goldust, I mean, it was such a unique character for the time. Like, kind of a closeted
Mm-hmm.
homosexual, but he's got this gorgeous woman with him at all times. So he's straight, and it's like, yeah, and then he's like making out with his opponents, like in
Yeah.
that old in the corner.
Caressing Razor Ramon's hairy chest, and she's
Yeah,
like, "What the fuck?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
machismo, dude. Get off of me."
And like like I said, like with with Dusty when it was Sapphire, like he's like okay, cool. And
Mm-hmm.
like so with Dustin, like you have to make it with a man. Okay, like he's like if I have to do, and he's made it into like a 25-year character.
Because
Like he's like
I don't remember a match where Goldust didn't open up his leotard thing. Nowadays, he doesn't do that because he didn't have to. I think they have better technology, but back in the days, pretty sure that was getting really hard. They were really hot in there, really hard wrestling.
well, I mean, if you go back, I think it's WrestleMania 2012. I think it's the one before this one when he fights Roddy Piper in a street fight, and Piper strips him down. He comes and he ends up wearing like just straight up full lingerie, which you see a couple years later when he becomes the artist formerly known as Goldust. And yeah, like it's just I don't know. He's such a weird character, but I love it. Like I go back and like there was never a time when he was not entertaining. Like if you might not like him at the time when you're a kid,
Mhm.
but when you're an adult and you can actually like appreciate what these guys do, and you see these characters and it's like God, heck yeah, Goldust work like. And when you see like the guys he's able to work with, like you see these matches with Triple H, like okay, yeah, he's good, but then you see him work with big guys, small guys, like tag matches, singles
He's
matches. He
worked
can
with
do it.
everybody. He's always just been
Yeah.
there. They've always. It sucks because they've always just passed him up, but he's had good matches with everybody.
Yeah, and you talk to like or not you, but like you listen to anyone talk about him, and no one has anything negative to say about him as a performer.
Mm-mm.
And you see it like in these kind of matches, like how well he can stand his own.
Yeah. I think they had a real good back and forth. They let them do their thing for almost 15 minutes. Fucking sorry, I put this shit out. It's all smoking over in my face. Um, yeah, but Triple H ultimately gets the victory with the distraction. They set up a little thing where Marlena kind of gets pushed up against the ring by China, and Goldust reverses the pedigree, but then
Right? Yeah.
he sees what's going on the outside, so he goes to pull up Marlena onto the ring apron, and it's a whole setup. You know, he's getting her out of danger, but actually putting himself in line. Sorry, I'm breaking kayfabe, guys.
Yeah.
But putting himself in line to be pushed by Triple H to push Marlena into China's arms. So that's what happens. He pulls her up to the apron. Triple H pushes Goldust while he's distracted. Marlena shoots into China's arms, where China begins to shake her violently. Goldust gets pedigreed. And to be honest, Marlena was getting shook very hard, very wildly.
She was, yeah.
Yeah, I was
Like
like,
I was,
China, calm down.
yeah. Like you could tell how new to the business China was, and you see her
Yeah,
because that was pretty much all she did. Her first couple appearances were just like ragdolling Marlena, and that was it.
yeah.
And eventually, she was able to figure out
She
like,
had
oh, you
recently
don't have to.
she had just come out like I think the last pay per view before this, she had come out because of Marlena.
Yeah, yeah.
I think she was a plug in the crowd or something, and she came out and she
She
was
comes, yeah, she comes out and just and kind of like that was yeah another Triple H and Goldust matchup, and yeah, just again causing distractions.
I think in your house, an event in your house. I forget which one.
Yeah, it
97.
would have. Yeah, and trying to think what would have been before WrestleMania. I know the one after this. I know the one after it, but not the one before. I can't
Mm,
think. But
yeah. So Triple H wins with the help of China. Good 15-minute match. And then we move on to a tag team championship match between Mankind with Vader, with Paul Bearer, The Undertaker, versus Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. So Paul Bearer wasn't with The Undertaker at this time. Did he come out with him? No, he didn't.
no, he was. This is when he had turned on him at the previous year. He turned on him and joined up with Mankind,
Mm.
and then I think he's with Mankind and Vader up until Kane's debut later this year,
Yeah,
like in October this year, and then he
Mankind goes crazy because Paul Bearer dumps him,
yeah.
and that's Mankind's thing where he's fighting with Kane for a bit too.
Yeah, and takes a little bit of punishment.
Yeah, a lot
He
of
took
it.
some beatings in those guys from
Yeah,
those guys.
yeah. So Owen Hart and the British Bulldog are tag team champions, but there's a little bit of butting heads, because the British Bulldog is the European champion and the tag team champion, so he's double champion. And Owen Hart is just single champion, but Owen has 2 Slammy awards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kind of just towing them along, like, yeah, well, look, I got 2 championships too. Well, I got You got 2 championships. Well, I got 2 Slammys and a championship. So that's one up and
Yeah.
kind of like one up in him. He's calling himself the leader of the tag team. And Jim Ross has interviews with these guys like before or after the match, and he brings this up, and they're like, "Stop trying to stir the pot, JR. You're just trying to get in our head." And it's just funny to see. It's just funny to see that Owen, can play to the camera as well, and had great wrestling skills, which are on display in this match.
Yeah. Well, and you watch the subtleties that these guys use. Like sometimes the British Bulldog would come out first, and you'd see Owen like run behind him and slip in front of him because he had to get right to the camera so the cameras could see him with his 2 Slammies and his title.
Yeah.
He had to make sure that the Bulldog was not visible at the camera. Like that, it's those kind of subtleties that work so well.
Yeah, Owen was great. I wish we would have seen more of him, but if you're a wrestling fan, you already know what happened to Owen.
Yeah,
unfortunately. But a great match to go watch him in. Except the British Bulldog gets worked over a lot. If I believe right, Owen started the match. Does pretty well against, well, not too well against Vader, but does what he can against Vader. Gets a little bit of offense going. Tags in the Bulldog, but Vader takes over, and they him and Mankind kind of keep him away from the corner and work him over till Owen gets in. I can't remember how Owen and the Bulldog won.
Oh, it double count out. All the guys and just brawling at ringside, and it's count out.
Okay, yeah. Now I remember.
And at the end, like the Bulldog's like unconscious at the side, and Vader and Mankind kind of like walk away happy, and Owen rushes over to see how he's doing, and it's kind of then they just cut right away to the Brett and Austin montage setup. Like they cut it really fast. Like when you watch it, it's like there's no like coming up next. It's just like Owen checking up on him, and boof, there it is.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, hey.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember. I couldn't even remember who won, but yeah, it was a double count out.
And the Bulldog and all, like those are the tag teams that I miss. They kind of remind me of like the Brett and Neidhart tag team. Like you have like the one guy that's big and tough and strong, and he can take the beating, and let the smaller guy, like faster, quicker, get in there and do some quick moves, and then he can get a beating. They get the powerhouse guy back in. Like it works well, especially when you guys got guys like Vader and Mankind that just take punishment and give punishment. Like it doesn't do as much for me.
Mm-hmm.
But watching this match, like these two teams really worked well together.
Yeah,
and it was another, just like I said, like this another entertaining match.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Brett maybe had the similar style, just when not as many eyes were on him. But you can definitely tell that the different style that Owen brought to the table. A lot of the same moves that Brett would incorporate, but this guy would have more of a high flying aspect to his. A lot more sunset flips, a lot more drop kicks from the top rope. He just did a little bit more of that. And
like where Owen would fly, Brett would work the mat more.
Yeah, a lot more technician.
Otherwise, very, very interchangeable in a lot of the things that they did.
Yeah, still both very entertaining, but it was up to you to pick or choose what you wanted to check out.
Yeah, and I feel like when you saw like those Brett and Owen matchups, that I feel like that's why they were so good, because like they were the same guy, just one was on the ground, one was in the air.
Oh yeah, speaking of a matchup between them two, they had recently had a match between the both of them, Owen and Brett, at the European title tournament. So there was a tournament before this. It was for the European tournament, for the European title, which the Bulldog ultimately won, but Owen and Brett had to go against each other, and I think that's where Owen went over, and I think that's where a lot of people really put their eyes on Owen, because Brett put him over, and they had such a great match.
Yeah, Brett was never he was never against doing the job for Owen. Mm-hmm. I mean, like even like when he won the title at WrestleMania 10. He fought twice on that one. His first fight was against Owen, and Owen pins him. And then, Brett ends up going out and beating Yokozuna at the main event. But, I mean, this is like a huge night for him, and he's not afraid to lay down in a previous match. And then And like he said, like he's always willing to put Owen over and do what was best for the company.
Yeah, it was. So that's why the Bulldog was double champion in this one. Awesome match. Definitely go check it out if you want to see an old match that Owen puts on a great display. Everyone,
And
everyone puts
and
on a great
and
display.
imagine you look at that match and you have arguably 5 Hall of Famers if you include Paul Bear in that, and there's only one, just Mankind. Paul
Yeah,
Bear's in too, but Vader, Bulldog, and Owen. I think how the three of those guys all like, and they're all gone. Like when they put those three guys in, like they won't even have a chance to see the fans' reaction, which is so terrible when you look at the career those guys had and what they did for the business, especially at this period in time.
and Mankind being the one that's alive, the shit that he did.
It's ridiculous. Like,
How is he the one that's still fucking alive?
like, god damn it.
Not that I want him dead or anything. I think he's coming to
Oh,
Chicago
no.
soon, very soon.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna be at some T-shirt thing. He's charging like $40 for a picture and autograph. I have his book that's autographed by him. I bought it at Half Price Books. I don't know if it's his real autograph. I've looked online for the his actual autograph, and it looks like after a day of like doing so many, it looks close enough to where I believe it was like I only paid $12. So if it's not, whatever, I got the book for $12.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I should
Well,
probably
yeah,
get.
you just go to see him when he's in Chicago. You bring the book, and be like, "Hey, is this yours? If so,
Yeah,
I can get a refund on my way out. I already got your autograph."
yeah. Might as well get it signed twice, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
to
Compare and contrast.
yeah, to McFoley
Oh,
signatures.
he looped the O here. He didn't in
Yeah,
this one.
yeah. And then go sue Half Price Books for $12 or return it for $12. This wasn't
Yeah.
McFoley. This is his real signature. You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just sell it back to them for like double the price since you got an autograph for real.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been able to find any more autograph books though. I should get some wrestling books, but I've been thinking about doing Audible, or I don't know which I need to look into it where you listen to books.
Yeah, I do. I just use it through iTunes. They have a book thing there, and I just kind of search and I'll look things up now.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
have too many, but I use well, it's just convenient for me. I just grab the iPod and just
Hmm.
hit the icon, and it's right there and said and done. So
Yeah, I listen to so much podcasts at work, and I'm like, maybe I should start listening to audiobooks and get some books in my system. That'd be pretty cool.
yeah, we'll get you set up with a nice baking book.
Yeah, right.
There
Send me some starter, Ryan.
you go.
Send me
Mail
some
it
new
to you.
starter. We'll have we'll have the same. What is the same
I'll have a
mom?
bake off. Yeah, yeah.
uh, and then so after the Owen match was Brett versus Stone Cold. Stone Cold, Stone Cold.
I will. I'll go on record as to say that this is maybe the most important match in WWF history in the long term of things. Uh, if I mean, there's a lot of things that happened with WCW, obviously that caused that downfall too. But this match, if you don't know the whole history behind this match, they showed up to the arena. They sat down with the booker and they said, "Okay, so it's gonna be a submission match." And Austin's like, "Well, I am not a submission wrestler." And Brett goes, "Don't worry, I got this." He goes, "What are we gonna do?" He goes, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna blade you." And at the time, like blading and wrestling, especially WF at this time, was like maybe 3 times a year, and it had to be like really, really worth it. And you can see it in the match when it happens, but Vince had no idea that it was going to happen. So when you see Austin bleeding, the reaction from Jim Ross and Jerry King Lawler and all that, like that's all. Like the only people who knew about it was Brett and Austin. No one else knew.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they utilize, like Brett came up with the finish and with Austin, and the way that they turned Brett heel, the way that they got Austin as a face, and then I don't know if you'd want to call it lucky, but Austin breaking his neck a couple months later makes him have to become that brawler. So now he's like this badass, willing to bleed, bald guy, wears black,
Hmm.
kicks your ass, has a broken neck, and he's the champion. Like if I the way that I've always looked at it, if Austin doesn't bleed and lose the match the way that he does, I don't see his character getting over as much with the fans. I think he was on a slow rise, and then this one here just put him, instead of making like main event, that made him like elite superstar, just like snap of a finger.
Yeah, this was what, the double turn where Austin comes in heel, Brett comes in face, Brett leaves face, and Austin leaves. No, sorry. Brett
Yeah,
leaves heel and Austin leaves face. That's because so they have an incredible match. They put on a
yeah,
badass match. The bell doesn't even ring, and Austin charges at Brett. Austin's on top of Brett. Brett rolls Austin over. They roll to the outside. They're fighting on the outside, and automatically they're beating the shit out of each other outside.
yeah.
Um,
I just starts off with a bang and just
mhm.
builds so fast and so heavy and doesn't slow down.
Yeah, and they're fighting outside. Austin plays with the crowd, steals a drink, drinks from a drink, throws it at Brett, proceeds to beat him up. Then Brett starts beating Austin up. They get further into the crowd, and then eventually they make their way back into the ring after they whoop their ass through the outside. Oh, and sorry, Ken Shamrock is a special guest referee as well, and he's playing it down the
Yeah,
middle too. He's playing it fair, but they have to respect Ken. Ken's kind of being pushed right now, or they're trying to push him. They're trying to make him maybe into the title picture. This is this is introductions into Ken Shamrock,
yeah.
if I
This is
remember
like,
right.
yeah. So this was like they brought him onto Raw maybe 2 3 times in the lead up. This is like he's going to be at WrestleMania as the referee in this matchup. Blah blah blah. Uh, he's from the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and of course, it's a fight to the death kind of big blood sport. And he's the champion, and he's the toughest, baddest man in the world. Look out, nothing can stop him. So if you guys get out of line, like he's going to make sure to straighten you out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see which is so funny because they spent a good amount of time building up that angle for Shamrock. And then Austin and Brett are into the crowd, and Shamrock's like walking around, like not sure what to do. Like, what that we should be grabbing him and throwing them back into the ring. Like that to me kind of got lost.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like they brought Shamrock in as like this watch out kind of guy, and I think I think it's the beginning of the match. They show Billy Gunn gets in Shamrock's face on Raw, and he demonstrates some of his submission moves. Like, oh,
Yeah.
here's an arm bar, here's a leg drag, and all these things. And it's like it looks so rough because Billy Gunn didn't know how to take it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can see Shamrock's like, no, don't worry, just roll with it.
Yeah,
Just do
he's
like,
reacting all crazy, like
yeah, yeah.
It's like, dude,
Which is like it's crazy because now you skip 20 years ahead and you see Ronda Rousey and you see these guys or these girls who probably don't do MMA, but they know how to take these holds and that because they've, like we talked about earlier, they've integrated them into the regular arsenal of moves that these guys use.
mm-hmm. This, well, because of what we mentioned, the turn. This was an iconic match for both. It catapulted Austin. He got a push without getting a push. I This might have actually been bad for Brett. I don't know if his descent with Vince already had started, but I know Vince was like, shit, I'm getting more and more people over. Austin's getting over.
Yeah,
No, DX wasn't around yet, but Sean
well, I
getting
mean,
over being like that pretty boy fucking
yeah,
heel character was getting over. It's just heels were getting over and Brett wasn't a heel. And I don't know if this was where Vince saw a lot more stars and a lot more potential where he's like, fuck, I don't know if it was the right decision to give Brett that contract. I don't know if Brett was aware or if that was out yet on the table, but it's about to happen, and there's a lot of tension at least between him and Vince, and I think a lot of people say this is where the Attitude Era kind of starts. Like,
Yeah, because it's the main event in this one where Brett comes out and he's yelling at Vince about or he yells at the Undertaker from the
mm-hmm,
previous edition of Raw because a lot like what's not mentioned during the pay per view I don't think, but this was almost for the WWF Championship. On Raw it was Sid versus Brett, winner gets the title, and then the matches were set: Taker and Sid, and Austin and Brett. So it was a matter of who's going to be the title match. And so Brett gets screwed over by Undertaker. So that was where he comes out. He starts like berating Vince at the end of that Raw, and then on the pay per view, he's not releasing the sharpshooter. He's getting in Ken Shamrock's face. Then he gets embarrassed with the belly to belly,
mm-hmm.
and then he comes out and he attacks, or verbally I should say, attacks Vince and Taker and Sid. Like he was like, and when you have your babyface good guy coming out and saying, "I'm getting screwed. This is bull." Vince, this like he's. I wouldn't say it's like too colorful of language, but for this era, that was really different and really pushing the boundaries of what Vince wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of funny because you see Stone Cold do like say a whole lot worse in like 6 months time.
Yeah, but I think this is where Vince started realizing, man, I need to switch things up. Attitude Era, boom,
And he also like, and how much money he saves with the white hot Stone Cold
mm-hmm.
on his contract with like a cooling down Bret Hart with his contract. Like, so he can get rid of Vince, he can get rid of Bret and save a lot of money. Like that's because WWF wasn't exactly in the greatest position either at this point in time.
Yeah, WCW was gaining traction.
Yeah, kicking ass this time. Yeah, because Hogan was
It's
heel
97, so NWO was in full effect.
because they were the summer of there was 96, right?
Oof. Ooh. This was, let's see, if I put 1997 WCW, then, W, the NWO was wrecking havoc. I just don't know what. Starcade 97, Sting versus, damn, Scarecrow Sting versus fucking Hollywood Hogan. Yeah, dude, the end of Hollywood Hogan had the belt. Yeah. NWO was in full effect.
Yeah, so this is where Vince definitely had to make some decisions. You got Sid, you got Vader, you had
The rise
Undertaker.
of Goldberg. Goldberg was coming up in the over there.
Yeah, Vince had a lot of he had a lot of big talent, a lot of big contracts, and a lot of low ratings, and he had a lot to do. And this double turn just kind of gave him the perfect start. They put the Intercontinental belt on Austin, then get him into WrestleMania main event with Shawn, and but the tricky thing was,
dude,
how do I get rid of Brett? And
you know what's hilarious? If you look at both of the WrestleMania and Starcade, WrestleMania kicks the shit out of 97 Starcade. The only thing that I don't know, maybe not the shit. See, but it's because like they have like Perry Saturn versus Chris Benoit. Like Perry Saturn, I don't know.
Chris I Benoit think Stark 97.
But then you got Buff Bagwell versus Lex Luger. Then you got DDP versus Kurt Hennig. Good match. But then you got Larry Zbyszko versus Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, okay, so this was what Eric Bischoff talked about this one on his podcast. He talked about Starcade 97 and how disappointing it was because Sting, I guess, when he showed up to the arena that night of the pay-per-view, they spent like 16 months kind of like, here's Sting, he's going to be this guy, this whatever. And Sting came in there, like he was super depressed, like they didn't know what was going on with him, like he wasn't talking to anyone, so they had to do like a last minute change in the main event, which I mean ultimately ruined their pay per view because
they ruined the main event. Hogan wasn't supposed to get the 3 count, but if I remember right, he wasn't supposed to get the 3 count, but he told the ref to do a fast count, and the ref did a fast 3 count. But then Brett came out because Brett was done with the company by this time because WrestleMania and Starcade are off by a lot of months. Starcade's in December, WrestleMania's in March.
Because this was Brett was allowed on camera, but he couldn't wrestle because the screw job was in November.
Mm-hmm.
and he made his appearance, I think, like 2 weeks later. But Vince's stipulation was he couldn't wrestle
Yeah, so he came in and he's like,
however long.
"Hey, fuck that shit! You need to start this fucking match over right now." And
Yeah,
then Sting got the stinger, I think the Scorpion Deathlock, and then or he might have hit whatever his move was, but Brett was the ref or something. Brett
yeah.
became the ref. It was.
It got really really lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, a lot of people were blaming Hogan. They said
And
he
yeah,
fumbled it.
that's what Bischoff was saying a lot of that. He said a lot of people were upset with Hogan, but the problem was actually Sting backstage.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with ego. It just had everything to do with Sting's demeanor, and he just didn't. I don't know if he was
He's in
on. I don't know
character,
if it was not,
bro. He's in
yeah,
character.
backstage in the locker room in his street clothes, just get. But yeah, like the.
It's like
I
Jim
mean, well,
Carrey.
it's kind of funny, like how we were just saying, like how Vince had all the problem with all these like white hot heels, and all of a sudden, a couple of these guys go over to WCW, and WCW starts sinking, and WWF starts going straight up the ladder.
Yeah, yeah. But if you go back and look at it, they had some good pay per views. It's just what what WCW had was the NWO, and you can only ride it out for so long. And especially when you have such shitty gimmicks, well, not gimmicks, but storylines. When you don't play them out right, and you do the pokes to death, and you
Oh
don't
yeah,
play out the Sting or the Goldberg situation right, you fumble the Sting pay per view. You fumble the Gold or the Warrior when he came in that pay per view.
oh yeah, yeah.
It's just you did so many things where you fumbled it, and the fans gave you the benefit of the doubt because they still liked the NWO, and you just kept doing it and doing it and doing it to the point where the fans like you can't give it. We're not taking the shit anymore. Like
Yeah,
WWF is good.
and that's where we look at like the corporation. The corporation was almost in the way the NWO
Mm-hmm.
just got bigger and bigger and bigger. With, I mean, they had a couple like tier wrestlers, I guess you could say, and then they kind of just like filled it up with a bunch of like B and C level guys. But the difference is when Vince is like, okay, the ministry's the corporation's kind of running its course. I don't know, we'll combine with the ministry,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be the supreme leader, guy. Then all of a sudden, it's the same basic storyline, but now it's a little twist in there. Where I think NWO tried that with the Wolfpack, but it just didn't. And like Wolfpack had like what, 5 guys, and NWO Hollywood had like 30, and like and they
I
just kept on growing and growing.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. Everyone was part of everyone. Like
I think
I think only Ric Flair wasn't part of the NWO. Like Ric
I
Flair's
think
like one of the only people.
DDP said him, Goldberg, and Flair were like the top of WCW that never put on the NWO shirt,
Booker T. Oh,
or
Booker T did it in. Oh, he did it in
he did in
WWF.
WWF.
Oh, Booker T. That should have been a holding point. They'd be like,
Yeah,
I ain't fucking doing it in WCW. I'm not doing it here, dude. All right, that was a standing point. I'm a WCW guy.
yeah. When he and that was a random because the WWF bringing back the NWO was so like I still look back and I'm like, what are they doing? Like,
Dude, they shit on that so bad. I'm gonna put
uh,
a cancer into the WWF.
he turns
So
his
bad.
chair and it has
Yeah,
NWO on the chair. Like,
yeah.
oh, good God, get out of here. That's where Vince was like, well, WWE's out of business. I got to do something.
Mm-hmm. Incredible match. I would definitely go back and check it out if you guys never seen it. And if you guys have, go check it out anyway. It's an incredible wrestling match. They gave them the longest match of the card for a reason.
And
Um,
props
and
to Brett again, like just thinking like about blading in a time when it wasn't happening and doing it so secretively, keeping it between the two of them and able to write their finisher that way, and then letting Ken Shamrock know and Jim Ross and like, here's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a sharpshooter where he's gonna pass out from the pain.
mhm.
And then it turns out, no, it's a sharpshooter where he passes out from loss of blood,
Yeah,
which they left that part out, and it was just ingenious to do that because you're getting a raw reaction from the commentators, and that makes the listeners at home or the viewers at home rather so much more intrigued because when all of a sudden the commentators don't know what's going on. Now you want to know, like, whoa, was this like this isn't scripted? Like what? Like you're more involved in it.
Yeah, Brett focusing on Austin's leg, the just the whole wrestling to the selling, to never stop the selling.
Mm-hmm.
Austin at the end of the match limps away. His left leg is fucked up. He pushes away any help, and the crowd starts fucking cheering crazy. They go wild for him at the end, just because he walks away like a fucking gladiator, beat up, but hey, I'm walking off on my own accord.
Beaten but no help.
Yeah, but no help. Yep. It was awesome.
And Brett just gets belly to belly, and then Shamrock just stands him and says, "Let's fight."
Yeah,
and then
Brett's like,
perfect coward heel. Brett just like, I'm out.
Yeah, he's like,
and that's something that, that's exactly what they needed, and it's what he gave them, and it was awesome.
Awesomely done by Brett. Let's see. Anything else on this match before we move on?
Just just watch it. Like, if you've watched it 1,000 times, go back for the 1,001st time. Like, it's worth it. It's such a good match. I don't know if I could put it as my top WrestleMania match, but it's easily top 3.
Who's your favorite, Brett or Austin?
Austin.
Austin.
I looked back over, like, I grew up loving Brett, but I feel like when I really came into watching wrestling and really enjoying it, it really was Austin that drove me back in. And Brett was WCW when I was watching it a lot, so I really didn't get to see a lot of that. I did get to see the entire, like, Stone Cold legacy born and end. But I think,
well, you got lucky, my friend. I got to see Brett come up. I was a little kid, so I was like, yeah, Bret Hart. And then when I was old enough, I was like, oh, he's going to WCW. And then he went to WCW, and then they shit on his fucking career.
I'm almost in a weird way happy that he got that concussion from Goldberg. Obviously, everything that happened as a result of that really sucks, but I feel like that concussion got him out of WCW. And he was no longer necessary to be a part of any of their storylines, and that kind of, I think, saved his career from going down a path of, like, some of those guys, like when Russo and all those guys were, like, putting the belt on David Arquette. Like, no.
Oh,
like,
you didn't like the NWO with fucking
Silver and Black with Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, with Jeff Jarrett as the leader.
Oh, I hated that, man.
The leader?
Silver and Black. Get out of here.
NWO? It was NWO 2000, I think. Brother.
Yeah. Oh God! Oh God!
Yeah, they made a lot of mistakes.
Unforgivable mistakes. It's either the NWO 2000 or WWF's NWO. One of those two. Just
the worst is the NWO 2000. I think that's the worst rendition. You're like,
The WWF one though was like, I don't know. It kind of reminded me of like the original NWO. A lot of run-ins, a lot of beat-ups, and then they run out, and then they kind of just like threw the click together and with NWO shirts, and then they're like, "Okay, Sean, you're in there. All right, Big Show, you're in there." Like all they did was copy the game plan, move for move, and then be like, "Yeah, this isn't working. Let's just scrap the whole thing for like with no reasoning behind it. We're just gonna end it. Hogan's gonna turn face at WrestleMania, and we're just gonna kill off the NWO. Like, all that work for nothing."
Yeah, right. It was like, why to get Hogan back in? But to be fair, I think they gave him a title run after that. I think he got a title.
He got the undisputed title. Yeah. He lost that one to Taker, and he came back. He fought. He was Mr. America or Captain America or whatever he was there for.
Yeah, he had the mask on.
Teamed up with Edge for a bit. He had a good run, but no, that's just bring back as the Hulkster.
Yeah. So after that, they had to take a little bit of a lull from that match. We got was it a tag team match? Yeah, it was a Chicago Street Fight. No, it was a 3-on-3 match. So it was the Legion of Doom with the addition of Ahmed Johnson coming out with the gear and everything too.
This wasn't 3-on-3. This was 3 on like
everybody.
13. They had like clearance.
Yeah, how many fucking people did Nation
because
of Domination have in the beginning because this was a
they had
lot.
they had Crush, Savio Vega, Farouk, and then they had all like their associates that could
Yeah,
because they want
I didn't know a
like
lot of the associates. I didn't know Clarence Manson or JC Ice or Wolfie D. I know D'Lo Brown stayed as one of them.
yeah, Wolf, JDS and Wolfie, they were these skinny little white rapper wannabes. Like that, I don't know. They just threw them in there. They never really made sense in that
Were they
group.
there the whole time? I don't think so.
They were there up until Farouk disbanded it, the
Mm,
Nation, and when he disbanded it, it was just like everyone's gone, and that's what birthed like DOA and Los Boricuas and those guys.
okay.
But yeah, that's where it all started from. So they had like all these like random like hang along guys.
It's funny. So Farouk disbanded the Nation, and then Crush forms DOA. Dead or
Yeah,
Alive, right? I think that's who it was. The biker gang.
Disciples of
Ah,
Apocalypse.
there we go. And they were biker gang.
Yeah,
They had all stupid names like Crush,
Skull, Eight Ball,
Skull. Yeah, they're all dumb names. Like,
and you know the oh, I'm gonna get one of them wrong, but is it like one of the last three or two of the last three guys were the Harris brothers in WCW?
yeah, something like that. Yeah, but
Yes,
Vega moved on to form Los Boricuas. He had, I think it was the strap match, the Puerto Rican strap match or something like that he had with, or the Caribbean strap match that he had with Austin. That really gave them a lot of like eyes on them because I guess they put on a really good match.
yeah, and that was the if Vega won, DiBiase was fired from WWF
And
because he
Austin
was
threw the match.
and Austin gave up, and DiBiase was let go,
Yeah,
and that was the end of
let
Austin's
go.
yeah Austin's run of the with the $1 million
Yeah,
title ended
DiBiase
there.
went to go join the NWO instead.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, I'm going over here. They got more better ratings.
I mean, and you want to talk like Los Puerto Ricos might be like one of the. I mean, WWF they don't care about race.
Hmm
They will stereotype the crap out of anyone. And Los Puerto Ricos came out looking like every stereotypical Puerto Rican that's portrayed on TV. They were just thrown in there like white beaters, white pants. Like
WWE still does it. So right before or right like a little bit before or after a little bit Black History Month, Bobby Lashley won the title, and R-Truth won the title. Black History Month is over. Bobby Lashley lost the title a little bit ago. R-Truth lost the title yesterday.
that's awesome.
R-Truth never has a title, and this was the first title Bobby Lashley has had
He
since he
finally
came back.
gets something. I know he lost it. Who did he lose it to?
Finn Balor.
It's all right. I like Finn.
Yeah. But I wish there would have been a little bit more story or something. But whatever. Finn's a good choice.
I like how they put the belt on R-Truth too with the with Nakamura. He like kicking out of the move, and was it R-Truth kicked out of the move? Sorry, and Shinsuke was like arguing with the ref. It was a 3 count. He just roll a little schoolboy roll up, like so
Yeah.
deep to get the win. Like whatever.
That's how he's gotten a couple of wins. I know Samoa Joe just won it. He took it off of him in like a four-way match. He held an open. He held an open, and they all came out, and he's like, "Shit!" So he had to do it. They started the match, and he had to.
Was he even pinned or?
I forgot. I forgot if he was pinned. I need to go back and watch.
Go back and check that one out to see it. I like Samoa Joe.
Yeah, I like Samoa Joe too. He's great on the mic. These guys had a Chicago street fight, so it means you could do. It's a hardcore match.
This is why when you said what one do you want to do, I was thinking like, God, what one do? There are so many good ones. And I was trying to think of like a Chicago-based one. I'm like, ooh, Chicago street fight. My first thing I thought was the LOD and Nation of Domination going at it.
I've been to 2 Chicago street fights, one on a house show and one on a Raw.
Nice.
I think the one at the house show was for the title. It was Sheamus versus Roman Reigns. It was around that rivalry time, around Christmas. 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. It was a while ago, but yeah, Chicago street fight, hardcore match. Good match. I don't know what technicalities we could talk about much in this match. It was just a bunch of weapons and fire extinguishers going off.
If you want to watch the best part of this entire match, You have to watch the pre-match interviews that they give. Uh, I think it was Todd Pettengill was there. I'm not sure if Michael Cole may have done one also, but they're talking to the nation. They're standing there like street signs and 2x4s. They have all that stuff,
Hmm.
and then uh, Jerry the King Lawler goes, "Oh, they got everything but the kitchen sink." Like, and now over to so and so with the Legion of Doom and Ahmed Johnson. And they go over to those guys, and Ahmed Johnson standing there with a kitchen sink.
Yeah,
It's like, oh come on, like so corny but so great. Like
yeah, it was some good
this
shit.
this was a
Um,
fun match.
yeah,
Like it
and
was
and
hard. It
Phil's
was rough, but
for people that don't
finish.
know, this one has a little bit of back history. So, if I'm not mistaken, the Nation of Domination was formed when Ahmed Johnson was feuding with Farouk and the members of Nation, some of the members of Nation of Domination. I don't know if it was these particularly came out and helped them, and he formed the Nation of
Yeah,
Domination.
he wanted to do something that because he was Ahmed Johnson kept on getting the upper hand
Hmm.
and kept on beating him, so he wanted to like exact revenge. So he like took him. He had like Crush would come out and like attack him and like ruptured his liver, and then he'd come back the next week and Savio Vega would kick him. He like rupture his spleen. Like Ahmed Johnson had so many ruptured injuries in '97 from the Nation of Domination. It's a miracle he was still alive. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, so this had a little bit of backstory. It was a good match.
yeah, the ending was probably one of the weakest finishes ever. Like Animal throws Crush into the 2x4 being held by Ahmed Johnson and Hawk
Hmm.
and just dives down, gets a 3 count. I'm like, ah.
I think it could have been a lot cleaner, but being a hardcore match, I guess it really didn't matter. But a lot of
And
the
when you
moves
got
were
that many
sloppy.
bodies, right? Like
Yeah,
that many
yeah.
bodies in there, and how many of those guys are like trained fighters too? Like,
I just thought some they were gonna hurt each other the way they were like hitting each other and not tossing each other right, and it just kind of seemed sloppy, a little too sloppy for me. But
and there was a couple times when you see like a guy will pick up a 2x4. I think it was when Savio Vega was going to hit someone, and he really winds up and he doesn't check behind him. Like normally when a guy picks up something big, he kind of like looks briefly, and then he just like
yeah,
picked that back and like he easily could like knocked someone out without even meaning to. But
I know at work when I put something long over my shoulder, I look around before I start turning and hit someone
yeah,
in the
yeah,
face.
exactly. Yeah, these guys were just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, good match. I definitely go check it out for you guys. Not long,
Uh,
10-minute match.
and Hawk had the pretty cool. They did Animal and Ahmed Johnson both put up. The one had
JC
ice.
Ice and Wolfie D. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they each had one on their shoulder, and Hawk gave out the double Doomsday device, which was
yeah, yeah.
so much. And those guys could sell.
What a rush!
Oh, love it. Oh man, miss those guys so much.
Dude, I loved Ahmed Johnson coming out with that fucking gear too. It was awesome.
Ahmed Johnson was one of my favorite guys. I was so pissed when Vince let him go.
Yeah, he could have been something, but he gained a lot of weight after he got let go. When he came to WCW, he was really fat.
Right, he was Harlem Heat, right?
I don't know if he joined Harlem Heat. I can't remember if he did. I know he came in. I don't know.
I feel like I remember him and Stevie Ray, maybe when Booker was like a singles guy.
Maybe. I just remember Ahmed got really fat.
Yeah, he was sad.
Yeah, I think he was sad. He got let go and he gained a lot of
He
weight.
was he was like Vince was like promising all these like huge pushes, and every time they would push him, he would get like legit hurt, not like the scripted story.
Yeah, I think he wants to blame someone for being injured, but or like for not getting a push. But I think it was more due to injuries that he didn't get the push.
Yeah, like every time they were trying to do something, he had to take him off.
Hmm.
So they put the Intercontinental title on him really fast and put him in a big feud
Yeah.
with Gold really fast, and then with the Nation, and then just like within like probably within 8 months of this, not even he doesn't even make it to the end of the calendar year in
It's quick.
WWF.
Yeah, it's quick that he doesn't. He doesn't really get put far.
But he'll always be remembering a toy of being a farmer.
And then the main event, The Undertaker versus Psycho Sid. Um, quick note on Sid. I think due to his horribleness on the mic,
Oh,
he did not get the push that he deserved, and maybe because of the curly blonde hair. Those two factors kept him from being superstar level. A Hogan.
I always loved him. Back in the early '90s when he was Sid Justice, and he
Mhm.
was best friends with Hogan. He was here to even the sides. And then he became a heel and turned on Hogan, and
Yeah.
then he left WCW and ECW for a bit. Then he came back, and I don't know. He was big. He was rough. He was tough, but he was also agile. Like he could. Well, uh, careful using this one. But he could jump off the top rope, no problem. But
Oh.
I I realized as I was saying that I
Every time
but
I
yeah.
see that, I broke that exact same leg. Not the same way, but I broke that leg. Like I skateboarding. I was trying to beat Tony Hawk when I was like 14, and I tried to drop into a bowl, and my left leg hit first, and me being heavy, like it made contact with the floor first, being a
Oh,
bowl. So when I dropped like this, so when my left leg hit first, all the weight just went and it snapped
oh,
it, and the bone popped through the skin. I broke
no.
I broke both
Oh,
bones. I broke the tibia and the fibia. One popped through the skin, and I got taken to the hospital. Got
jeez.
fixed up. They put a screw in later. 4 months later, they had to go in, re-break it, take the
Mm,
screw out, and put pins on the outside because it wasn't healing right. So every time I see that
oh,
Sid thing, I'm like, ah. For the people that don't know what we're talking about,
oh,
go
don't
ahead and
do not Google it.
go ahead
Or if
and
you do, don't eat like 5 hours ahead of time. Like,
go ahead and check out on YouTube. They have it.
oh,
Psycho Sid leg injury, and you'll find it. You'll find
it was when he picks up his leg.
it.
No, but like I always liked that. I thought he was fun. I thought that he had a lot of good matches. Like he could
Fantastic
fight,
wrestler, great physique.
fight. He could fight guys like Vader to Brett. Like he could fight a lot of different styles. Like I said, he could use the top rope,
And
or he
it
could
wasn't ridiculous either.
no, no. It wasn't like some big guy just jumping to get punched in the gut. Like he could
Hmm.
actually like land a move if he needed to. Like
Yeah, except that one
his
time.
choke was pretty cool too. Like instead of just like dropping it, like he would like fall to his knees and like really slam them down. Like
Yeah,
really make it feel like he was trying to hurt them.
yeah. His physique too. You could tell he was on all the steroids.
Oh, everything.
Yeah, and him being huge, dude, it was just ridiculous. We got to see a cool Undertaker, cool gray gloves Undertaker. Him painted up above the eyes with purple and under the eyes with
Yeah.
purple. We had that Undertaker.
It's just like kind of like WrestleMania. Oh no, because he does fight Kane, so that would be the last like vintage Undertaker before he starts the biker gimmick.
Damn, was it right after that?
I think so. Yeah, because
You could be right, dude. I was young. I was
because
for me, time
yeah.
was
Oh no,
meshes.
no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong because WrestleMania 15, he was in the Ministry.
Yeah, yeah, because they do the
He
whole
still
ministry thing, right?
so he went so he went like the vintage Taker to the Ministry, then the biker. Yeah, I missed the Ministry there.
I think I have the ministry figure. Yeah, that's the one that you had, right? That they opened up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry to.
kids. Hey, at least I got a new toy to play
Yeah.
with. That's silver lining, right?
Yeah, yeah. Awesome match, man. Two big guys that could really move around, do some top rope stuff.
I like the
Um,
reversal, like when you see like the power of Sid, like when Taylor's going for old school,
mhm.
and Sid just catches him like with ease, like really showing like how like it's gonna take a lot for Undertaker to beat this guy. Did a good job of selling like how tough and dangerous Sid was. Like he was in a cage match 6 days earlier against Bret Hart, and now he's fighting the Undertaker in the main event. Like,
Yeah, no, it was definitely trying to portray him as a badass, but those mic skills really
it
really
was
didn't help.
there was one I think he had in WCW where he talks about someone sucking. I'm like you might be more familiar with it, but he's like you're like he talks about someone like you're terrible, blah blah blah. But it's like probably 13, 14 seconds of him rambling where he's not really saying cohesive sentences.
It's probably like all of his stuff.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So this is a no disqualification match for the title.
I forgot to point out, or HBK makes his appearance there, of course, because Mr.
Yeah.
WrestleMania
Yeah.
be there.
He's on the mic.
Mm.
Had he retired or something? Because so Brett comes out and he says, "Hey, you fucking piece of shit." I might be ad libbing a little bit. You better not interfere in this match. Saying that you fucking lost your smile. Don't interfere in this match. Stay out of it. And then he tells the Undertaker, "Hey, I really used to respect you, and we were buddies. But after you fucking slammed the cage on my head last week or something like that, things are gonna be a lot different." And then
Although you slammed the door on our friendship.
yeah.
Essentially, it sounds like a 13-year-old girl would say, but
Yeah, and then
that's
who was it? Then he tells Psycho Sid. I forgot what he told him, that he was a piece of shit or something.
off. Yeah, he takes the power bomb.
Yeah, and then he power bombs him. And then they take him out of there. And like we said, they had a good match. But later on, Brett gets involved, even though he told Sean to stay out of it.
Hey, he comes back out.
Yeah, and he interferes in it, and he actually hits. He hits Sid with the chair, and the ref doesn't know. Oh, it's a no disqualification match.
Yeah, no disqualification. Yeah.
So,
which is funny. How come Brett didn't want Sean in there? Because perfectly legal.
Yeah, it's no disqualification.
And one of the fun things too about this era of WWF is if you go back and watch them, like if you watch anything where someone bleeds, the ring gets stained. Obviously, nothing you can do about it. But the amount of fire extinguisher stuff all around ringside from the Chicago Street Fight, they couldn't get a guy out there with a mop to quickly just like clean it up, like nothing. So like these guys are.
I forgot who it was. It might have been Hawk. For no reason, he was walking around just going.
Yeah.
To the for a while, like he would spray it at someone and then walk away and then go. I was like, what the fuck, dude?
This is what happens when you give guys who are used to not being in these kind of matches these kind of weapons. They want to have fun.
Yeah. Just want to have fun.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun match. I mean, it kept the storylines going that they were working on going forward. Sean had been champion, lost his belt to
lost a smile.
Yeah, and then that was, I don't know. Oh, I think this was his drug suspension.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but there was a point in time where he popped for. They said, he had popped for steroids, but they used it as he lost his smile.
Mm-hmm.
So they took it. He just took like a minor suspension, went to rehab, and they kept him on camera as just like Shawn Michaels. At this time, he had to have him on camera. And then he comes back, and DX gets formed, and away we go to the Attitude Era.
Cool. I got nothing else on that, Ryan. It was a pretty good pay-per-view. I'm glad you made me watch it. Well, you didn't make me watch it. I could have said no. But I'm glad you brought it up. I needed to do this, especially to the build-up to WrestleMania. We've been going for a good...
It was an hour and a half or so.
Dude, hour 40. Holy shit.
Ow.
I think that's good. Yep. I don't know if you got anything else on it, Ryan. Any last words?
Just what?
Not like you're not dying, but
a lot of these pay-per-views, they kind of they fall by the wayside to like some of like the classic golden era ones and the Attitude Era ones, like the ones in the mid '90s. People kind of forget about, and some of them weren't that good. And I think that they kind of get grouped together. But this is one that definitely just check it out. Like if you have the network or the DVD, or I'm sure you can find them anywhere, streaming services or stream them offline. I'm sure you can find something somewhere. But definitely, it's worth checking these ones. This one out. It's a lot of fun, top to bottom. Quick matches, good matches, amazing talent. You go back and look at all the Hall of Famers on this card. It's like definitely worth a watch.
Agreed. Hopefully you'll jump on with us for Average Joe soon. I know me and Jeff are recording a little bit early tomorrow because he's gonna go see Captain Marvel. That son of a bitch. He's gonna go see her early.
And
I literally could too because I got Friday off. But we're going to record beforehand. I'm just going to wait till Sunday because I'm going to take my nephews. thanks a lot, Ryan, for joining me, helping me record this episode, and helping me reminisce
Yeah,
about
definitely.
WrestleMania.
I love these. I like that you talk old wrestling and that, and I don't know too many people that are either willing to look back at some of these or know enough about them or that. So I like talking to you and Jeff and a lot of the guys in the Full Heel podcast group that we have there. A lot of those guys like the old wrestling and that. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's nice to like, be able to talk with like the vintage stuff that I grew up on and that. So rest in peace, King Kong.
Oh yeah, King Kong Bundy, rest in peace. Recently died. I gotta have you on, even though if it's not for WrestleMania, we do a different one or something. Some other pay per view that you want to do.
Yeah.
Um,
an old WCW of some kind, I'd be more than willing to see if I can track them down.
I think a lot of them are on the network too. Well, they're all on the network. They're all on the network.
Oh yeah, they should be. Yeah, they own them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining me. Please subscribe. Leave a rating. Review. All that good stuff. 5-star rating. And I'll see you guys next time on the Full Heel Podcast. Thanks a lot, bitches. Bye.